and welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your host, Daniel.
And Brys.
And once again, Brys is joining me today for a podcast because, as we mentioned earlier, the other host, Daniel, is going to Minnesota. He's helping his brother-in-law move up there, so that's going to be kind of interesting.
What a lucky man, him.
Yeah, well, he is a bit lucky going up to Minnesota, especially since he's talking about going to what is it called now? The Game Center that used to be the Fantasy Flight game area.
I know, you told me that, and I was like, oh my gosh. There's also a really cool gaming store I was going to because I have family that lives up there, and it's over by Mall America. It's so much fun to go to. It's packed full of games.
That's pretty cool, and lucky him. I know. Lucky you, though, you get to do something you haven't done when joining us on the podcast here. You get to do a top 8 debate.
I know. I'm excited. I love debating.
Well, we're family friendly. I'm not going to say that joke.
I was going to, but I stopped myself because I thought the same thing. I was like, we'll put a pin in that and call it a day.
But it's interesting. This is a really cool one. When I told you you're going to be doing a top 8 debate, I worked with you to decide which would be best for us. In this category that we're going to be doing is quite interesting because this is not something I think I could do with the other Daniel. You and me are Ameritrash players. We really like thematic games, and this is the perfect one for both of us. Do you want to tell what we're debating today?
We are debating Cool Mini or Not, or CMON, or Come On, or whatever you like to call them. That's up to you.
Yeah, so I still call them Come On. That's what I've been told they're called, so we'll see. They haven't really made an official statement one way or the other that I know of.
I think they actually did, because I know there was a video, I think it was Dice Tower, where they went on no, it's Come On, and something like it. I don't know. We'll put a pin in that and call it a day.
So yeah, I'm just gonna call them Come On Games. You can call them CMON. They're no longer Cool Mini or Not. They went to the acronym, which I can understand because they were trying to get away from just the mini games. And in fact, one of the games here on our list doesn't have minis in it.
No, but it does have some really cool plastic in it. I'm just saying.
That is. But they've got some card games out there. We might talk about some of them here in a little bit. But first and foremost, our audience here told us what their favorite Cool Mini or Not games are, or Come On games. So we're going to go ahead and give you the audience honorable mentions here in a second. But I got a question to ask you real quick, Brys.
What's up?
How many Cool Mini or Not games do you own?
I own everything on this list that we're about to talk to except for Arcadia Quest. But there's some that when I went to go look up honorable mentions and stuff like that, there's some that I don't own. So I want to say I probably own at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 games, 12 games, 12 games.
So for me, I don't own as much as you, but again, that's because of my limitations that I've done on myself, is that if there's multiple games in my game group, I try not to buy a lot of them. That being said, I own 3 of them, but I got rid of one. But actually, on my honorable mentions, I do own one more. I think I only have 4 myself. I've played quite a few of them, but again, I also limit myself to what I buy. But yeah, I think I've played all 8 games on our list and all 3 of my honorable mentions. And then there's probably some on your honorable mentions that I've played as well.
Yeah, and I mean, and then also Onk's coming in here pretty soon too, which is another CMON game, and that should just be right around the corner popping up.
So. Yeah, and then right behind you, I see Marvel United. I own just the base game of Marvel United, but I also own the I just backed the X-Men United.
Mm-hmm.
And before we get going, because you always help us out, you can find Brys on TikTok at Gamehead Geek, and this will air on the what is today? So today is the 11th. This will air on, I want to say the 15th or 16th, somewhere around there. So next Wednesday. Are you still doing your cup or your giveaway by then?
Yeah, my giveaway is and it's funny that we're doing CMON. This is actually the giveaway game right here, because it has the exclusive Walmart Venom character. But this is a giveaway that I'm doing because I just hit 500 people. So you can go onto my TikTok, find that video, and just make sure you like the video, you follow me, and put a friend on there or something like that that you know of that would like my content. That gets you one entry. Second entry, you can go onto my Instagram. There's a link in my bio. And third would be go into my Q&As and ask me a question about any of these beautiful games behind me, and I'll helps me make more content and get videos that you guys want to see. So go take a look. I know
So there
you
you
actually
go.
just
Again, his TikTok is at Gamehead Geek on TikTok. You can also find a link in the description down below on our YouTube channel, as well as our audio podcast information. So you have access to it at anyways. Go and sign up and help him out, because he's always helping us out. So there you go. So let's get into this, Brys. Let's see what the audience have said their favorite CMON games and their audible mentions. Is that cool with you?
yeah, let's see what they say.
All right, moving on to our first honorable mention here. And I'm going to start from the top. Daniel always likes to start from the bottom, but we'll go with the number one honorable mention here voted on by the audience. And that was added by Aaron, and that is Lorenzo El Magnifico. It has 14 votes on here. And I wasn't sure this was actually a CMON game. I thought they distributed it worldwide, but I don't know if they distributed here in the US. Have you played Lorenzo?
I have not. I've heard of it, but I have not played it or looked into it myself.
Lorenzo El Magnifico is actually a really good game. I've actually played a copy of it at the shop. Yeah. So the next one on our list here is added by Ben, and that is Ethnos. Have you played that one?
I have not. I heard it was ugly as sin, but it's a great game, and I've never actually picked it up because the last time I bought a game where the art was questionable, it really did take me out of the game. But I think it was more because the IP is what I wanted, and I think you know which one I'm talking about, is the Firefly one.
Oh yeah, the
Legendary Firefly
legendary.
Encounters.
Oh, that was so ugly.
Yeah, and so as much as everybody raves about Ethnos, but everybody raves about how bad the art is. So it's on my wish list, but I haven't pulled that trigger, and I don't know if I will or not. I think that's going to be one I have to play before I buy.
Yeah, I've heard good things about this game, but I've seen pictures of it and versions of the CMON version of it that I've seen like from Dice Tower and stuff like that. And I'm just like, that game does not match the artwork from the outside, because you have like the discs, you have the like this artwork and the cards that kind of match the board, the box. And last week's Chits and Giggles was best and worst board game covers. If I had played this game, I'd probably be one of my best board game covers, but ugly on the inside because it is not that great.
Yeah, no, it almost feels like it's supposed to be like a puzzle. Like, you know, when you're making a puzzle, you have the cover up just so you can see what it is. Like when you're playing the game, you're like, oh, there's all the artwork. It's all spent on that cover, but not on anything else.
Yeah, no, it's not a pretty game. The next one on our list here by Kevin. Do you want to read this one out?
Yeah, the next one's going to be Bloodborne. Now, I've never played this. What about you? Have you?
No, I've looked into it. I'm just not a fan of the video game itself, so I just never wanted to try it. Now, I don't see it on the list here, but God of War I've looked into, and I thought that would be pretty cool because I really love the video game. But both of them I haven't played.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. I was never a big Bloodborne fan, video game wise. I mean, it could be a great game, but it never drew me into it. So
yeah, same. So next here I have is Robert, and now this one I guess is considered a tabletop game. It is the Song of Ice and Fire miniatures game. The Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fires. I've seen the minis. They're great minis, but it's not something I would play.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I've wanted to try doing like a miniatures battle, and I think like something like this or something from Fantasy Flight with their Star Wars Imperial or whatever it was that they did, or Star Wars Legends.
The one that I equate to this would be Armada and X-Wing. That's the kind of tabletop miniature game this is. Warhammer 40K.
So Facebook. Fantasy Flight actually has one too, where it's a miniatures tabletop game as well, and you actually it's land based instead of aerial based like the other ones.
Yeah.
So, but I've never gotten into them myself. So,
yeah, I don't know why. I mean, they seem to get X-Wings was fine. I don't know how I'd feel about this one, but just I can't get into them like the Warhammer or any of those tabletop miniature games. I would rather have miniatures on a board game for some reason. I just don't know why it is.
The closest thing I ever feel like getting into this would be the Blood Bowl series, just because or Blitz Bowl, and I bought a lot of the Blitz Bowl stuff when it was on sale.
Yeah, no, don't blame me on that. We really do need to try that though.
Yeah, I know.
All right, so moving on over here to Ian. You want to go ahead and tell the folks that one?
Yep. Ian is the Godfather.
Specifically, Godfather Corleone's Empire is what it's called.
Empire, yeah. So this had a huge buzz when it came out. I remember everybody was raving about this game. It's a dudes on a map game. I wanted to pick it up, and I know there were some people saying like Marshalls or TJ Maxx or something like that.
Yeah, we're selling it for $8.
$8, like super deep, dirt cheap. But we never got it over where we live at. I've never played it. I think Danny had it, didn't he?
No, our mutual friend Dom does.
Dom, I was like, I know somebody bought this, but we never played it. At least I've never played it myself. I don't know about you. Yeah, so
I've heard good things. It's like a worker placement, dudes on the map. You're basically trying to control, I think, New York City, the 5 boroughs. It's thematic adjacent, I guess you could say. You do see characters from the Godfather movies, but you're not really playing as the characters. You're just doing some mob stuff in the city. So I do want to try it, though. I really, really looked into it. I still haven't pulled the trigger when you see it on sale. But, yeah. Moving on to Phillips edition here, and this is where we're getting like very little votes on it. This one specifically is a game I do want to try. I've heard really good things about it, and that's Xenoshift. You ever heard anything about it?
I know the name. I couldn't tell you gameplay or anything like that. This isn't the one where it's like what is it? A timed game, right? Where
no. That one is further down on our list here, but yeah. This one specifically, it is a space game. I've looked into it. The cover is amazing. I just can't tell you too much about it, but I've heard it looks pretty good. And from what I've seen, because I've seen it like at cons. So with Xenoshift, I don't know too much about it, but from what I've seen of it, it looks pretty cool.
Now that you mention it, I can picture the cover in my head, but that's as far as I can go on that one myself. But this next one coming up, this is one I have not pulled the trigger, and I'm glad they've done a second printing of this with some like plastic material instead of the cardboard.
Yeah.
But the next one is Gizmos, and I wanted to pick it up because people said it was a Splendor killer, and I love Splendor.
See, I don't see it as a Splendor killer. It can be, but for me, like the Splendor killer is Century Spice Road, but this is another good one of the engine builders. I really do enjoy this. Maybe I'll talk about it a little later. So moving on. And now, I know specifically CMON does have the rights, but I don't know if it's here in America. They do publish this next one by Matt. But specifically, the copies I own are by Starling Game, and I got them through the Kickstarter, so I don't know if CMON is attached to them here in the States as well, and that's Everdell. Now, I adore Everdell. Should it be on this list?
I was going to ask you about that because I saw that. I was like, I didn't think Everdell was a CMON game, but
They do have the publication rights, but I don't think it's here in the U.S. I'm not
Okay.
exactly sure who does it here, but like everything I own, I don't even see CMON on the ones I have here on the wall. Mind you, I also got them through the Kickstarter, so there's that. But Everdell is a phenomenal worker placement game, engine building. As you can see right over my shoulder over here, you can see the tree behind me. And yeah, it's adorable. It's a cute game, but I just don't know if it's CMON or not.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Michael's game?
Michael's game is the Grizzled. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, but I will let you continue.
I will too. And I'm going to go ahead and skip the next one because some
not
jerk
fair.
put it in here.
No, he put it on there. You gotta say it. He put it on there. Jerk.
Some jerk named Brys over here added Potion Explosion.
In my defense, I didn't know we were not allowed to vote on this. So if you guys do go look, I did vote on a couple things. I apologize.
I deducted the votes on the things he put on there. It's fine. I forgot to mention it to him when I told him, hey, we're going to be doing this. I mentioned all the other things we do. I guess I forgot to mention don't vote in the poll. So he had a Potion Explosion. He'll probably talk about it a little bit more. I did not put it on my list because I assumed it was going to be on yours. I do dig this game. I just recently played it again. It took me a while to actually play this game again. I think it was like 2 or 3 years to play the physical copy because I've been playing around with the app for so long.
Yeah. No, especially if you're playing like by yourself or with 2 people, the app is just so much easier. As a matter of fact, it's funny that it's on this because I just did a video for 3D printing, and this was my 3D printed marble dispenser that I made. Because some people wanted to see some of the things I was 3D printing, and I was super. And I made this before I bought the 6-player expansion. So, but again, we'll get into that in a little bit later.
So what's interesting about this is I didn't tell him about this rule either, but he's already pulling what the other Daniel always does, and he gives us a show and tell. So our audio listeners, he put up a 3D printed Potion Explosion dispenser that he 3D printed himself.
Hey, I'm trying to make sure I fill Danny's shoes the right way, okay?
All right, you want to talk about William's pick here?
William's pick. See, I didn't know this either, but Kick-Ass. I mean, I've seen Kick-Ass.
I didn't even know it was a board game.
I knew it was a board game. I didn't know it was a CMON game because it was a Kickstarter at one point.
Oh,
but
that's right. I did not know that. I didn't know it was CMON either. And I went through 2 lists of CMON, and I didn't remember seeing it.
So that one, like I said, I don't know much about it. I mean, I read the comics. I don't know. It wasn't an IP that I wanted to that needed to stay a comic. And it could be a great game, but
yeah. Well, I really liked the movie, the first one. The second one was meh. The comics were great. Funny story about the Kick-Ass comics. They're made by a guy named Michael J. Straczynski. He made one of my favorite guilty pleasure TV shows growing up.
Which was?
Babylon 5.
Oh, okay. I've only watched bits and pieces of Babylon 5.
So when I saw that he made the comic, I read the comic, and then I saw the movie, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this guy made Babylon 5 and then Kick-Ass.
Kicked ass at doing it too.
Yeah, he really did. So the next one on our list here is Aram, and he picked Munchkin Dungeon. Now, I did see this on Kickstarter, and it did look good, but I didn't want to have anything to do with it because it's just like most people, the first people that come into first time you get into the hobby, there's that one game that really gets you in and that you play the mess of. Munchkin was one of those games for me, and I haven't played it in 5 years or so now. Same with you. Yeah,
Same.
I think we played a lot of Munchkin together itself. You to the point you even made a trophy for whenever we played Munchkin.
Yeah, I made that helmet so whoever won got to wear the Munchkin helmet. I wanted to back this so much, but something else had come out, or I couldn't pull the funds together. but our mutual buddy Dom got it, and I'm still waiting for him to pull it out one day so we could try it. But I
Yeah.
know it's funny though because Munchkin actually did have a Munchkin dungeon before CMON got to it. And it was
Well,
pretty much just like Munchkin, and then but instead of there being cards, like you actually had like dungeon spots to go to.
yeah, no. They changed it up a little. Munchkin Dungeon, the original, was just basically Munchkin as you're delving and you're playing cards and you're messing with it.
Yeah.
This was actually, I think, a co-op dungeon crawl game, a la Gloomhaven above your shoulder there. Kind of like that, with a little bit of shenanigans. I heard it's pretty good. I just never played it myself because I haven't touched Munchkin in a while. I even got rid of my Munchkin Panic because I was just tired of Munchkin.
Yeah, I don't have anything Munchkin in my house anymore, except for the little figure, because you could buy separately the little figures.
Oh yeah.
And I gave them to Beckham so he could play with them, so they're just scattered throughout the house.
So I do have one Munchkin game because I'm a nostalgia person. I keep it along, but it's the one I actually enjoyed. It was what is it called? Munchkin Legends. It's the one that has like the Roman gladiators and stuff like that. I kept that one. I've sold the other one that I had, the original Munchkin.
I've been very tempted to pick up because there is a Munchkin TMNT, and our mutual buddy Angel has the Munchkin X-Men, and I've heard they're very similar. And I kind of like
he has the Marvel, I think.
Marvel. But yeah, it is the Marvel one. But I like that a little bit more, but it is just it's a very big take that. And when whoever gets to the
once you get to level 9,
when,
it's everybody gangs up on you.
Yeah. So
yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. Munchkin's a fun game. It's good for people to start. You get further into this hobby, you're going to shy away from it, and that's just how it goes. That's how it's going to go with most games.
Yeah.
You want to read the last one by Alice?
Yes, sorry, because you said last one. So Project Elite. This was one I wanted to back, but again, something came up. I couldn't back it. I know a lot of people raved about how great this game was, and it was time that the game actually got really great miniatures, because the miniatures that came with the original, I heard, were pretty horrific.
They're pretty wrecked. But this one, Project Elite, I want to play it. I want to try it. It was one of those that I'm like, I'm not going to back it until I try it kind of thing, because I don't do well with real-time games. Some are really, really good. Some aren't, and I don't deal well with that stress level that this gives you.
Sorry. No, I like real time. It's just when I play real time with gamers, they understand, so they're going quick. But when I try playing it with other people, like my wife or other friends and stuff that like games but aren't really into it, they're just like, dude, I'm like, this is all time. You guys gotta go. We gotta get going.
So, like Fuse, I love Fuse. That's a great real-time game. Then there's another one that just stresses me out, and I can't remember what it's called because it just kind of game.
Well, my latest one that I just got was Escape the Curse of the Temple.
Oh, that's another one that kind of stresses me out. I like the roll and write one.
I haven't played my roll and write one, but we played that the other day, and it's fun. But again, like that's one of those, playing it with the wife. She's like, "Yeah," and we're just like, "You gotta go faster. You gotta go.
Move it.
We got only so much time."
All right, so I'm just going to go through the comments real quick, and then we can start working on our honorable mentions. Jack says, Black Plague just nicks Death May Die for me. It's fun, fantasy-themed zombie fest. Death May Die is really good as well. And Alice says for her, it's the other way around. She wouldn't change Cthulhu Death May Die for any zombie side game, which I can understand. Both are decent. I do like Black Plague, and I also like Death May Die, so... Robert said he added Song, which is Song and Fire, the miniatures game. It's much more of a war game than a board game, but it's one of CMON's best games. Synth, never played one in 20 years of gaming. I have the Old West zombie side on the way. That will be my first. Kevin adds, I added Bloodborne because from what I played of it so far, I like more than any other CMON game. except for maybe a song of Ice and Fire, but it's not really comparable. And then just some people agreeing with him about Bloodborne. Brian says, the one with all the miniatures. And yeah, okay. JM adds, I got into the hobby by the hand of Arcadia Quest. It was the first campaign game I knew about. I love the minis. After playing a few campaigns, it's clear that the snowball effect and luck make this game epic, but not as balanced as it should be. I love the theme on Rising Sun, and the production and diplomatic aspects are good. And Blood Rage is in his opinion, the best all around. Terry follows up with, from the three I've played, which is Cthulhu Death May Die, Zombicide, and Marvel United, Cthulhu is the clear winner. Alice says she added Project Elite, a very underrated real-time game that deserves more recognition. And finally, Bruno adds, the two that are in first, I don't have the opportunity to play, so I'm going to vote for Black Plague, the best Zombicide they've done so far. And there you go. Those are our audience's honorable mentions. I have closed the poll. I got the fan votes for tie breaks. So you ready to get into your honorable mentions here, Bryce?
Yes.
I'm looking for my coin of doom. I put it around here somewhere. There it is. All right, so I got the coin of doom. I get to do the coin of doom and cup of doom. So call it in the air, Bryce.
Heads.
Heads it is. You will be going first.
All right. Now, when we do our honorable mentions, do you want me just to do one or do all of them?
Do one, and we'll go back and forth.
Okay. So my first one is going to be Potion Explosion, just so you get some more show and tell there. I had it out for a video. Sorry.
Yeah, he was showing the box of the 6th expansion, so that nothing to see there, folks.
Oh yeah, I also forget that this is also an audio podcast, so pictures don't do so well on here. I apologize, everybody. So I love Potion Explosion, and I own every expansion that has come out for this, and I am printing things with my 3D printer to make the game even more fun and exciting. Again, like I said, I like Splendor, and this has a very really cool engine build to it. It still is kind of lucky, but there are ways that you can build up potions to manipulate the board to get a lot of dice in hand to knock out multiple potions at one time. So, but as you did mention, the app has been my best friend. Like, I play that when I go on trips all the time. It's a game that I won't pack because I can just take my iPad and you do pass and play with it. So, but Potion Explosions.
You just recently on our Tucson trip to do some sales, you took it with you, and you and Don were playing it in the back seat.
Yeah, me and Don were playing it. Like I'm telling you, I play that game all the time. I always put the AI on the hardest difficulty, and sometimes they still kick my butt. So, but it's a great game. If you haven't played it, it's definitely worth picking up at least the base game. You won't be disappointed, especially if you like Harry Potter theme type mystical magic stuff. It gives you that silly funness to it.
And I have to say, like, looking through the top 8 debate here, and we'll get through what those are in a little bit, as well as some of my honorable mentions. I don't know the rest of yours and some of the audience honorable mentions. This is probably one of the most family-friendly games that CMON has released. I think Marvel United is the other one.
And as much as I like Dragon Castle, I'm surprised Potion Explosion didn't make the list.
Yeah,
because of how popular.
Too.
And it could have been because of gizmos, but I mean, Potion Explosion is just amazing.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. It might have been the issue because we went with what they're currently known as CMON Limited, and I think Potion Explosion was released when it was still Cool Mini or not. So It might have been one of those things. So, but all in all, that's a great pick. I think Potions Explosion is one of the best games they put out there. And again, I just played it not too long ago, a couple months ago, for the first time in like 4 or 5 years, just because I play the app all the time. And I was like, you know what? I want to play the physical copy, and we did, and it's still really good. So if you do get this game and only the base game, I recommend getting one expansion. That's the 6-player expansion, because it comes with a plastic
Supposedly, because I'm not gonna go buy a new one, but if you buy any of the newer ones, I think directly through CMON, it comes with a plastic one as well.
Okay.
Because it was
Well,
like
that's better.
it was like a second edition. There's a Potion Explosion second edition. I don't know if it ever did come out. I know there was talks about it because after the 6-player expansion came out, people wanted the plastic one for their main, and they said yes, it was coming out, but it was going to be a second edition. I just don't know if that ever came out or not.
Yeah, no, because that cardboard one is just it's garbage. Oh, I'm sorry,
It's
it's
chintzy.
garbage.
Yeah, if you don't if you do get it and you get the cardboard one, glue it when you're doing it. It'll make your life so much easier.
Yeah, I didn't know that because we both bought ours around the same time, and you're like, you should glue it. I'm like, it's too late. I already built it.
Well, remember I think it was me and you, we were playing and I picked it up and the whole bottom fell out from underneath. I was like, son of a
Yeah, no, I
bad
remember that.
word.
It's something else. It is family friendly, but also be careful with this one around younger kids as well because it does have marbles, so
Yeah,
there's
choke
swallow
protector.
hazards. Yep. So my first honorable mention here also has marbles. This one is Gizmos. Gizmos is a great engine builder by one of our favorite designers on this show, and I guess you would include this too, and that's Phil Walker Harding. He makes some of the most simplistic games out there, and they're so good. And Gizmos is right up there. I really do like this one because it's an engine building about building gizmos. This way you can find the right combos as you're pulling things and storing things. And I did this. So this triggers, this triggers, this triggers. Most points at the end of the game wins. Phenomenal game. I'm not a huge fan of it at 2 players, just because, again, it's a marble cycling game. So you have to pull something out and then things slide down. If your engine isn't built and the marbles aren't cycling, because unlike Potion Explosion where you have 4 trays of marbles coming out, you have one tray of marble coming out.
Yeah.
So if your engine's built for blue marbles and no blue marbles are coming out, you're going to get left behind. And so with more players, you have a better chance of marbles coming out because if I take one and then Danny takes one and then I take one, it's just not cycling like it would with 4 players. Next time I come around, there's that blue marble I need. So they're a bit of an issue at 2 players, but I think it's really good. It's really quick and it's a nice looking game.
There's no way of like manipulating the dispenser at all during the game.
There is and isn't, because you can only take, just like in Potion Explosion, you can only take what's in the row.
Yeah.
Now, there's sometimes I think some of the gizmos that you can get turn like a red one into a wild and stuff like that.
Okay.
But it's different things that you can do, but it's harder to get, especially in the beginning of the game. So if I'm not getting at a 2-player game, if I'm not getting the one I need, and that other person is running away with the game because they're getting everything that they need. They built their engine. Yeah, mind you, it's possible for me to build my engine one way. Well, when I built the engine, blues were coming out. Now blues aren't coming out because if they are, someone else is taking the blue. There's no cycle. And this is that's the thing with it is the luck based on the fact of how the marbles are going to come out. All right, your next honorable mention?
So my next honorable mention is going to be The Grizzled. Now, I own this game. It is a cooperative game. I have yet to play it. It is on my shelf of shame, but it's because I picked it up from the last trade that we went and did in Tucson.
Yeah.
So I need to play it, but I wanted to play it for a while. I know people said it was such a great cooperative game. It's really tough. So, but that is my second honorable mention, and that is The Grizzled.
I'll talk about it a little later, but I'm going to go to my number 2. The reason being is because I actually go into depth with The Grizzled on my number 1. So let's go with my number 2, which is Blue Moon City, which is a great game. It's the only Reiner Knizia game that I own. And this is saying something because this guy has made like 600 and something games. I only own one. It's this one. I actually picked it up at the con in El Paso. But I think it's called like Three Wizards Con now. It used to be called Border City Con. It's a great game where you're competing to get to a certain total of points. The way you do it is you're rebuilding a city because the city got destroyed. And so what you're doing is when you rebuild a portion of the city, you get rewarded with crystals and a dragon favor. And there's like a red dragon favor and a blue dragon favor. And I don't remember exactly what the favors are. But the crystals you got to use to pay to the obelisk, which is in the center of the city. And by paying those crystals to the obelisk, the first one to a certain number of points, depending on the player count, I think it's like 6 for 2-player, 4 for 4-player, something like that. First person to hit that number wins. Again, it's the only game of Dr. Reiner Knizia's that is in my collection. I adore this game. It's actually a really good game. I'll have to show it to you one of these days. I haven't played it in a while, so I have to refresh myself on the rules, but I really, really, really enjoyed this one.
Interesting. Yeah, no, when I was looking at the list, I saw that. I was like, I did not know that was a CMON game.
Yeah, it originally was Fantasy Flight, but CMON owns the rights to it now.
Yeah, see, that's what I thought was Fantasy Flight. Okay. I'm just gonna go like this. You can edit this if you want. I want to do He-Man as my next honorable mention. It's not out yet, but it is coming from CMON, and everything that I see on it looks amazing.
Hey, it's your honorable mentions. You can put whatever you want on it.
So just because the one I had on here was Sheriff of Nottingham, to me, it's a little bit of a cop-out because that just got put into CMON's category. And it was mostly because of Dice Tower having it with Arcane Wonders. So my next one that I'm going to be kickstarting is going to be He-Man. My brother was a huge fan, so it made me a big fan. And the fact that they're going to do a game with it, the only thing I'm hoping for is it's not a 1 versus many, but it most likely will be, or something along those lines. But I really am excited about this, and they keep teasing more and more stuff lately. Since it's supposed to be kickstarted sometime this year, I'm going to assume it's going to be the 4th quarter Kickstarter, if I'm not mistaken.
Honestly, I could see it being the August Kickstarter.
You think so? I'm hoping it's August. If it's the August one, I'm set. If it's the December one, I'm gonna pray that I can pay for the base game and then get all the add-ons later.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you about that, and we'll talk about like that kind of stuff in later on here. I do have to give a quick shout out. I mentioned it earlier. Now you're talking about Kickstarters. X-Men United, another one of the CMON games here. I backed that one, and it's not on my honorable mentions, but because Marvel United is, and that's one of our rules. But I'm looking forward to that because Marvel United is a great game, and I've been wanting a really good X-Men game, and I think I'm finally going to get it with this one. So,
are you? Because I backed it too, just because I have the first one. Are you going all in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was talking about it with Dom today. I'm sorry to sidetrack us on this because you brought it up. I was talking about Dom. I was like, I at least want to get Jubilee and Gambit and Iceman. Those are the 3, and then I want to get the Sentinels just because those Sentinels look amazing. And then I want to get the playmat. So if you're listening to this and you did back it, or I think you still might have opportunity to, but get the playmat because I didn't get the playmat on the.
With the all-in, I did that, and it's already taken out, so I could pay extra for the playmat. I'm just waiting to do that till next week.
Yeah. No, that's the one thing that I kicked myself on the last one, but I'm glad that I didn't because now I can get the double-sided playmat, and then I'm not going to be so upset about that. So, no, but the playmat will help out immensely. Yeah,
it's a great game though, honestly. And for me, it's like as much as I like Marvel United, there's a lot of Marvel stuff out there. As you can see, well, you can't see it behind me because it's directly behind my chair. I have Marvel's Champions behind me. I really like that one. So I'm like, no, I want something X-Men. And so this came out, and I'm finally getting. I played Marvel United. It's like, okay, I love it. And then they're like, oh, we're gonna do it X-Men United. You sons of. But going on to my actual number one honorable mention, I mentioned it earlier. It is the Grizzled. CMON's version specifically is the Armistead edition. What they add to it is the minis, and they also add a campaign style where you got to play through over a series of games and read through the campaign on it. One thing I have to say about this game is they kept the art on it when they changed it over to CMON's version. The art is phenomenal. There's a sad story behind that art that I don't want to go into, but just look it up. But but the theme here is going to be rough on some people. It is a World War I game, and it's dealing with, at the time it was called shell shock, but basically PTSD. Each round, the leader will choose how many cards every player is going to draw. Then going through around the table in player order, the players have to either decide if they're going to play a card from their hand or they're going to back out of the mission. The thing is, these cards aren't good cards. So you can't have two of the same things. You can't have rain. You can't have two or three, something like that. There's a certain number you're not allowed to have. So if the card has rain on it, you have too many of those, you're going to lose the round. You have too many bullets, you're going to lose the round. You're going to have too many of this, too many of that, you're going to lose the round. So you have to play these cards out, and the leader decides how many have to be played out, or you have to pass. Each card represents threats to the team or negative personality traits, which means like something I can't talk the rest of the round, or I can't talk specifically throughout the game. So it's a lot of communication limits as you're playing, and it's a really good game. And you need to play out the entire deck to win. More cards get added to the deck each round you play until it's all gone. It is a tough game. It's cooperative, so you're playing together as a group, but you can't talk too much about what's in your hand or what's going on. And it is by far one of the toughest games I've played. And the theme on it, too, is really hard for some people because even though the art is very cartoony, what they're talking about is people going through war and living through the PTSD and the shell shock, which is understandable. And it's going to be tough. There is a reprint of this made by CMON as well, based off the pandemic in a sense. The money they did for this one, I think it's called We Care. They re-released it, and what's going to happen is part of the proceeds are going to go to like some charities for first responders and stuff like that. And it's basically the redoing of the Grizzle, but in the aspect of what people went through during like the pandemic time. So hospital workers, first responders, and what they had to go through as well. So I want to try to check and pick up that if I can.
I knew about the Armistice edition because CMON had to get minis in there.
Yeah.
And I know they did something special too with if you bought that, proceeds went to another fundraiser, if I'm not mistaken. That's why they originally had done it.
All right, so let me explain what Brys is talking about. So it was a historical event in a sense. There was the creator of the art for the original Grizzled was an artist for Charlie Hebdo or something like that in France. That is the same outlet that was shot up by a terrorist attack several years back. So when they did the Armistice edition, it was a fundraiser to that. And so they're doing it again with We Care.
That's cool. I didn't know about the We Care. That's interesting to know. That's a cool bit of information there.
All right, you ready to get into this?
Sure am.
Bryce's first ever top 8 debate. So the way this is going to work is we're going to go and mention what the top 8 are right now for everybody to listen to, and then I'll break down the criteria, how we're going to argue it, and move on like we always do. I'm just going to basically help Brys along this way. He figures it out as he goes, because this is a bit of a bear compared to, hey, list your favorite board game covers.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. I'm actually pulling up your rules right now. So I have them in front of me too to look at.
All right. So our number 1 seed, Blood Rage, is going to go up against the number 8 seed, Rum and Bones, second tied or edition, whatever you want to call it. It's the one that was highest on the list. The number 2 seed, Rising Sun, versus the number 7 seed, Marvel United. That's going to be a rough bracket for me right there. I love both those games.
Yeah.
Number 3 seed, Cthulhu, Death May Die, going up against number 6, Dragon Castle. Total opposites of the spectrum there.
They're both cooperative. I mean, they have that going for each other.
And finally, the number 4 seed, Zombicide, Black Plague, going up against the number 5 seed, Arcadia Quest. So, Brys, how does this bracket these break down for you? How do you like them? Are there some that you like more than others?
I mean, I own everything on this list, like I said before, besides Arcadia Quest, because you own it.
Not anymore.
Oh, you got rid of it?
Yeah, our last trade-in, I took it.
Interesting. I didn't know that. But
You were there.
I know, but I didn't pay attention to some of the games you had because there was something else that Dom traded in. He's like, "Yeah, I traded that." And I was like, "If I would have known that, I probably would pick that up off of you." So, no, the only one I think is going to be a tough one for sure is going to be Dragon Castle. Has a lot of ground to try to make up with Cthulhu Death May Die.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one.
I mean, it's a great game, but if it was going up against something like Marvel United, I think it'd be a little bit more even matched, but that's going to be a tough one.
I think Dragon Castle's best chance would be going up against Arcadia Quest, in all honesty. I'm not saying it's not going to move on and beat Cthulhu Death May Die, but maybe Rubbin' Bones, honestly. That's another one that is a bit tough.
I don't know. I mean, I like Rum and Bones. I've only played it a couple times, but Rum and Bones is probably the only game I like playing where it's like that style of game of one versus another person, and you have like a military that you build out. But I'm also the one that owns that game because I don't think you own it. We've played it together.
No, we played it, but no. All right, so before we get into the top 8 debate and figure out who's going first and what game they're arguing, let me break down the criteria for everybody at home. This way, if you're new to the show, you know how it's done. So first off, we break it down by 5 criteria, the first one being ease of play. Basically, that breaks down to the simplicity and familiarity of the mechanism. So if it's a worker placement and that's your jam, then it's going to be easier for you to learn this game. The likelihood of getting it to the table, i.e. The mechanism, again, back to worker placement, if that's your jam, then yeah, you're going to want to play that. Or the theme, case in point, Marvel United. Marvel's very popular right now. As well as its proneness to analysis paralysis, which would be a ding if it causes too much analysis paralysis and slows the game down. So if it's least likely to give you analysis paralysis, it's easier to play. Moving on to the next criteria, which is replayed value. The way we break this down is length of time and scaling well. Does a 2-player game take about roughly the same amount of time as a 4-player game? Does it scale really well from a 2-player to a 4-player? As I mentioned at the top of the show, Gizmos, I don't like it at a 2-player game, but it scales so much better at 4-player games because things are starting to move. The engines are starting to move faster. Follow that up with a minimum number of plays. What we mean by that is to get the full experience. So if you've played a game and be like, okay, I know how it is, then that's it. You say something like chess, you know how to play it after the first time playing. Doesn't mean you're good at it, but you know how to play it. Whereas something like Gloomhaven, where you need to go different scenarios as you're going on to get the full experience, the full window. Legacy games tend to have a better chance at this part, as well as expandability. Already existing expansions, up to 1 possible future expansions. The best way we say this one is Space Base. Space Base has a Volume 1. We're assuming there's going to be a Volume 2. We don't know yet, but we're assuming. So we're giving it the one that we believe may happen, or if they have been confirmed by a designer or publisher. This way, a la Wingspan. Both designer and publisher have said that there's going to be an expansion for every single continent. Right now, they've only done 3 continents, so that tells us there's probably going to be 4 more expansions. And next on our list here is meaningful choice. This is the impact on other player strategies. If you make a choice that can impact how Brys plays the game, that's a meaningful choice, as well as an impact on your long-term strategy. If you make a choice poorly, how does it impact you for the rest of the game? As well as, do arbitrary choices make an impact on gameplay? Such as case in this, best description for us here is cash and guns. It's very arbitrary. You could just flip over a bullet and see what happens. You don't know what's going on. That's an arbitrary choice. You're not making a meaningful choice. So if you're not making a meaningful choice, that's a ding against the game. Next up on our list is game immersion. Does the game fit the category best, or does the theme match the mechanism? In this case, we're going to go with theme matching the mechanism, because we're actually debating CMON games. So does Zombicide's theme match how the mechanisms work in that game? And we'll argue that point as we go on. Player interactions. We're talking about table talk here, or not just table talk, but how does it immerse you into the game? Do you role play the character? Does it involve everybody in the game at once, or is someone just kind of feeling left out? That's the kind of player interaction we want. We don't want like tabletop quarterback. That can be a ding against the game, as well as memorable moments. That stand-up moment where it makes you go, yeah, in front of an entire room of a game shop because you finally beat somebody at Small World. It had everybody turn their heads.
One time. I'm just saying, I messed up. We still play games together. You're welcome.
But that was a memorable moment, and that's what we're talking about here. And finally, the simplest one, but also the one that could lead to a little bit more fights because people's different viewpoints, and that's art and production. The art of the game, is it really, really good? The pieces and components of the game, are they really, really good? And this is where we're going to have an issue because it's Cool Mini or not, or CMON. They're really well-produced games, as well as the graphic design. Does it make sense to the game? Does the game board make sense for everybody to follow through with it? Case in point, Pandemic is one of our big ones. That is one of the best graphic design games because you understand where everything's going, you know where everything's getting placed and how everything's coming up. And finally, the last criteria here is not even for us to argue. That's for you, the audience, on the Board Game Revolution community on Facebook. We always put a poll of the top 8 debate. Your vote is the tiebreaker. So if there's some way me and Brys here cannot come to a decision, your vote moves the game on.
All right.
Right, Brys?
Oh, all right.
All right. So as always, I don't decide who goes first. Brys doesn't decide who goes first. The coin of doom decides who goes first. So our first round, Blood Rage versus Rising Sun. Call it, Brys.
Tails.
Heads, I go first. Let's find out what game I go. I don't choose that either. The Cup of Doom chooses that one. All right, so the game I have to argue is the one I least remember. So you're lucky. You got Rising Sun. I get Rum and Bones.
Wait, you mean Blood Rage?
Oh, you get Blood Rage. Sorry. Rising Sun's the next one.
Okay, I know Cup of Doom is the one that I'm only throwing this out there because I played this more than you have. It's up to you if you want to switch this. I'm only saying that because
that's not the way this works. I got to argue the game that I don't know. I know it. Trust me, I looked it up. But it's the one I'm least familiar with on this list. But I will say this about Rum and Bones. Here's my arguments for it. It's very thematic. You're taking control of pirates. You have your crew hoping you take out somebody else's ship. The thing about Rum and Bones, and this is going to be a slight con of it, is because it's only 2 ships, right? So if you're playing like a 4-player game, it's like.
So I was going to check something. I don't know if, it's stuck in here.
Because I've only ever played a 2-player, so I don't know how it plays at 4-player. So that'll leave up to you, but.
Well, and actually, so I think, yeah, because you can play up to 2 to 6 with it. That's what it says on the box.
Yeah,
it's 2 to 6. I've only played it 2 people because that's where they always say it's at.
Yeah,
but I think you could do multiple boats. Also, I know some factions have multiple boats.
Mm-hmm.
So some factions will have a big boat. I think like there's a Goblin faction in the first box where it had 4 mini boats.
Yeah, yeah, okay. But like I said, it's very thematic. You do feel like you're a pirate. You do feel like you're boarding a ship. It's got an amazing production quality. It's, of course, like we mentioned, CMON, but this is early CMON, and it's still a really good production value. And the way you got to win the game is you got to destroy the other person's ship. How does that not feel like a pirate battle? That's exactly what you're looking for in this kind of game. Now, there's an issue, and it's going to be an issue for all of these CMON games, especially the ones that were kickstarted. And that's the Chasing of the Dragon, where there's only exclusives that were on the Kickstarter. And that's going to be a con for pretty much every game on this list. There's Dice Tower characters in Rum and Bones. There's just random characters that legally distinct from what they're supposed to be. But it does give you that feel that you're on a pirate ship, that you're fighting, that you're going through the motion. You're not going through the motions. You're really getting into that. That's when we talk about game immersion. This really gets you in there. You really are a pirate. You're really wanting to punch Bryce's captain in the face and shoot him, and destroy the ship as best you can because you want to win. So yeah, it's got that in spades. I don't know if it will move on because I'm just going by our criteria, but I think it's going to give a fighting chance. So you want to talk about not Rising Sun, Blood Rage?
Rum and Bones or Blood Rage? Yeah, and so, oh man, so Blood Rage, I think out of the two is the more simplistic and ease of play. So it's like I've taught this game to my wife. It's very easy, especially if you've ever played some of the other like little more basic games like area control games or drafting. I mean, one of the main focuses on this is at the very beginning, you get to draft your cards. And so people kind of understand drafting, especially if they've ever played even stuff like Sushi Go or Seven Wonders. So that's a very easy mechanism to get out to the table. Now, understanding what some of those cards do and how to really strategize with it, that's where the play comes in. But the full thematics of you going out and fighting to the death to get reborn, to bring out more of your characters and stuff like that, you really do get it. Length of time, I think the length of time, even at like a 2-player versus a 4-player game, because it scales well for either a 2-player, 3-player, or 4-player because of how it was designed.
Yeah, and then it shrinks down too, so it just makes play a lot tighter.
Yeah,
too.
no, yeah, you can shrink it down to 2 people. You can shrink it up. You can have 4 people. The art on it is amazing. The theme, honestly, I mean, as much as I love the Viking theme, it could have been anything. This is one, like, especially comparative to like Rum and Bones, like you said, you really feel like a pirate captain. In this one, you do feel like you're in control of your group, but your group could have been anything, in my opinion. I get more Viking themes from other games that I own. So, but I think simplicity, ease to get to the table, this definitely is going to beat out Rum and Bones in a heartbeat. I mean, so, and strategic too. I mean, like I said, like there's so many different paths that you can take. I mean, we played it one way, and then we had Danny come and play it with us, and he tried doing a Loki strategy, and he almost kicked our butts.
Yeah, I think you beat him by like 5 points.
And that was his first time playing, and he just went to go to lose. He lost all of his matches, and he ended up being second place in that match.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I get you. I do have to say this about Blood Rage, and I know what you're saying. It'd be anything painted onto it, and it would work fine. The thing about Blood Rage is that for me, it was the first time I ever saw a hybrid where you had your very thematic game, your Ameritrash game, and your Euro mixing very well together. In fact, CMON has been really known to do that well. We're going to be talking about it on the next bracket, Rising Sun, where they really, this was the start of it for them. Rising Sun really perfected it. Let's see how it works with Ankh when that comes out, because that's supposed to be the 3rd one of this series. But yeah, that was the first time it blended those two mechanisms or themes and stuff, if you will, where it blended the theme with the mechanism so well. So let's make it easy on you, since this is your first top 8 debate. We're going to go to the list real quick. Which one do you think it's ease of play?
Ease of play. I'm going to give that to Blood Rage.
I agree with you on that one. Now, replay value, which one gets it?
It's tough because replayability, I think Blood Rage gets it, but when it comes to expansions, it's already been proven. Rum and Bones has a ton of expansions, because what's great about Rum and Bones is that each faction has different special abilities. So it's not, I mean, I don't want to call it asymmetric, because you have some things that are very similar, but they do it in a way that gives it a different flavor than the next faction. Does that make
All right.
sense?
Yeah, so length of time and scaling, well, I'll give that part to Blood Rage. Minimum
Yep.
number of plays to feel the full experience, I think I'll give that to Blood Rage as well, just because the cards, every time you're doing a draft, you don't know what strategy you're going to do until that draft happens. Where Rum
Yeah.
and Bones, once you pick your characters that you're going to play, you kind of know how it's going to be, and you could just play that one character over and over again. So, but I'll give you expandability. Rum and Bones wins that one. So 2 to 3 replay value goes to Blood Rage.
Blood
Now
Rage.
I'm going to switch something up. I know you have the list in front of you. Which one do you think gets game immersion?
If we're doing game immersion, oh, that really hurt.
Bryce giving himself an injury.
Oh,
He's like,
my tooth really hard.
I don't want to argue between my babies.
Honestly, immersion, Rum and Bones. To the point where like I'm a big anime fan and I like One Piece. I want to see, and I haven't gone and looked for this myself, but I want to see if there's a One Piece deal where like someone had created their own, like you have your Luffy and Usopp and Zoro as like playable characters that you can then take into Rum and Bones. I want to see that. I know it'll never happen, but there's probably someone who's done like a one shot. But
Probably.
for me, I think the immersion portion is Rum and Bones because you are trying to take over the other ship by doing specific things, and you can force the other player by like, here, we're going to take out this group of people that might force my opponent to change guard and go after these people because they know we're about to win. So I really feel like the immersion comes more in Rum and Bones. But like I know length of time, scaling well, minimum player, it all goes to Blood Rage on that side.
Yeah, so game immersion I give to Rum and Bones as well. So we have 2 more criteria here. So I know what's going to tip things over here, but art production, which one's better? Which one has the better art? For me, I would say Rum and Bones.
Yeah.
The art style is just so much better there.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And it's actually funny because Rum and Bones actually has a Blood Rage expansion where you have a long ship and you have a crew of Viking warriors that you can actually play in Rum and Bones.
Pieces and components.
I like. What's up?
Pieces and components. Honestly, I'm going to have to give this to Rum and Bones again as well. I think the graphic design is better in Blood Rage for me personally. I just think because the way the board reads, how the cards read, especially some of those cards were like, hey, there's going to be a battle in this area. This is, you could give a bonus to those cards. You know exactly where that's supposed to be. Whereas the pieces and components, I mean, Rum and Bones have those dice as well. They also have like really good miniatures that look really cool. Not that Blood Rage doesn't.
It's tough because if you're going off of base games, if you were to go out today and buy both of these games, I would give it to Rum and Bones. If you've kept up with the Kickstarters for Blood Rage,
Chase the Dragon, as I mentioned earlier.
Yep. I would give it to Blood Rage because Blood Rage has those little houses to cover up all that stuff. You get the acrylic tiles for everything as well. Everything has its own little like piece. So you have a faction clan. If you're the bear faction, you have a bear paw as all your counters and everything like that. So it's a toss up. If you're going off of base, then I'd give it to Rum and Bones. If you're going off of Kickstarter, I would give it to
All right,
Blood
let's just
Rage.
go off of base for this because that's what most people can buy right now.
Then I'll do Rum and Bones.
All right, so Rum and Bones wins that one, but finally meaningful choice. And honestly, I think for this one, as much as Rum and Bones is thematic and gives you that game immersion, you're not really you're making some meaningful choices in there, but you're also beholden to the dice roll. Everything you're doing in Rising Sun is a meaningful choice. You're taking certain cards out of the deck as you're passing them because they're going to help you or hurt someone else. So that's impacting both strategies right there. and there's less arbitrary choices. The dice roll in itself is an arbitrary choice because it's not a choice you get to make. I can't remember, but there is some ways you can mitigate dice rolls or get re-rolls, but still, the way you get your cards, it's your decision how you're drafting, and then it's your decision how you're going to put your players on the board. It's your decision how they're going to battle and either win or lose because you want to get them to Valhalla and stuff like that. So for me, Rising Sun just has way more meaningful choice.
Blood Rage.
Or Blood Rage, yeah. Sorry, it's because I wrote Rising Sun twice. And so I keep looking down at the paper and I'm like, nope, Blood Rage.
I'll give it to you on that. I know those dice rolls can be, if you're having a bad day with the dice or the dice hate you, it can make that game go a little bit longer because you just and the mitigation that you get for those dice is few and far between because it does depend on the cards that you can get. So I'll give it to you. Blood Rage does have that little bit. Not as luck based. It has more of the Euro style in it, where it's like, okay,
yeah, it's a lot more
decision
making.
You play this right, you don't have to worry about your opponent's.
To the point, we mentioned it earlier. The Loki strategy. That is a viable strategy to make sure you lose every single one of your fights.
Just to get victory points.
Yeah. So
at the end of it, it's who has the most victory points.
Yeah, so moving on is Blood Rage 3-2, but like I said at the beginning, right? Not Rising Sun, Rum and Bones. There's a lot of R's now that I'm looking at this. In the beginning, Rum and Bones was going to put up a fight because just the thematicness of it, just the fact that you feel like you're a pirate fighting another pirate.
Yeah, like I said, it gives you that. I don't have a lot of pirate games, but that one I've kept. Because of how much it felt like when you watch a pirate movie or you watch anything that has to do with it, you're like, man, this is what it feels like. So,
all right. So with that being said, Rising Sun moving on. Rum and Bones eliminated. And now to the bracket we're both fearing. You sticking with heads or are you going to change your answer?
We'll go heads.
Heads it is. You're first out of the cup. Let's see which one you're going to get.
Marvel United. All right. Well, this is definitely going to be easy because ease of play, there's nothing like this. This game, right? I mean, the whole point of this game is it's a family game. I've gotten to the table multiple times in one sitting, let alone in just a span over a month of when I've gotten the game. It scales well. Not so much if you're doing a one-player game, but I think that was something that was added on in the Kickstarter. Wasn't something they might have been going for. But 2 to 4 people, 2 to 4 people scales really well. Don't have to do a lot of changes, so no matter what, you should be about the same amount of time play wise, because it's set by a deck, and that deck, no matter what, is when the game will end, win or lose. So, meaningful choices, it has some. Your bigger thing is going to be just making sure that you keep everything in check. So you just don't one day a card get flipped and you're in trouble because you didn't take care of things.
Yeah.
The game design, the chibi miniatures. I know when they first came out, when they first showed them, people were a little concerned. But I think it's what. Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of people say that, but I think it's what gives it its character, and it showcases the fact that it is a simplistic game. It's not taking itself too seriously in that whole fact of it all. So
yeah.
But that art style, it fits the game really well, and I don't want to say you feel like you're a superhero, but you do feel like you're defending something.
Yeah.
So
good for you.
Yeah.
All right, so my argument for Rising Sun, and here's a good one. Though I will say this about Marvel United. It is a really good game. I really do enjoy it. I have some issues. Again, the chibis are going to be so cutesies for some people, like you mentioned. It is a very simple game compared to others on this list. So, like you
Yeah.
mentioned, because it's supposed to be family friendly. My biggest drawback for Marvel United is that it feels at times more mechanistic rather than thematic. Sometimes I get taken out of it where I don't play, like I feel like I'm playing as Spider-Man or Black Widow, whoever's in it, because I'm just, oh, I only got these cards in my hands. Maybe I should just play these two or something like that. So sometimes that can take you out of it. Not often, but there is a disconnect from time to time. But with that being said, it's a great game. I get to argue Rising Sun. In all honesty, Marvel United is close, but right now, Rising Sun is my favorite command game. And so I'm trying to take my bias out of this, but that's how much I like Rising Sun. I think it is the masterpiece. I don't know how Onk's going to play. I didn't back that one. I was in $1, but I just couldn't afford it. But I get to play your copy. There's like going to be 2 copies in my game group. So one way or another, I get to play the game. But Rising Sun has great art. It's probably one of the prettiest games on this category between the player board or mat, whichever you have. By the way, the game mat is gorgeous, but the player board's just as well. The screens, your player screens, the artwork is just phenomenal in this game. It's well produced. We talked about it like with if we're just going to go with the base game, it comes with a lot of stuff. If you're going with like the Kickstarter exclusive stuff and all the extra monsters you can get into it, amazing. It's full of theme. You do feel like your clans fighting it out on the map of ancient Japan and stuff like that in mystical ancient Japan, I guess you could say. There's a lot of meaningful choices in there, whether, hey, I'm going to work with, say, Brys in the tea ceremony. We're going to be partners. When is the best time for me to break that alliance? It is such a good game. This is a tough one for me. And now I agree with you. Ease of play, Marvel United, hands down. For me, though, the replay value, that's going to be Marvel United as well. There's just way too many expansions that came out through the Kickstarter. Several of them are going to be able to be bought in retail stores. Not to mention, X-Men United can play with Marvel United and all their expansions as well. So replay value. So that's 2 right now for Marvel United for me. Meaningful choice, I already said it, goes to Rising Sun. Art and production, this is going to be a hard one. So I like the art style in Rising Sun a little bit more than Marvel or in Rising Sun rather than Marvel United. And here's why. I read comics, so sometimes that chibi artwork kind of takes me out of it. I feel like I'm watching like that Young Justice or whatever, the Young Marvel or whatever they had for like kids shows back in the day. The pieces and components, I like Rising Suns a lot more, even with the cardboard pieces. Like if you're talking about like the coins or your temples or anything that goes on the board, they're a lot nicer than the ones that you get in Marvel United. There's times like if you're punching it, it comes a little peeled and stuff like that. Now, you can upgrade it with the Kickstarter stuff. And again, I talk about this. This is the main one for me, the graphic design. This is why I give it to Rising Sun there, is everything makes sense. The player board makes sense. You know where you start. It points to you where your character starts. It even tells you, hey, sit around the board where you're supposed to start. So for me, art production goes to that. So for you, which ones come out to you?
So I agree with you on art for sure. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I like the chibiness of it, but I have the Rising Sun like box cover art on my computer on my desktop. It was on my phone for a while. I really like that style of artwork. Yes, ease of play is going to go to United. Replayability, meaningful choices. I do feel that Rising Sun has the more meaningful choice because of, do I want to go over here and help or start a battle, or do I need to hold down this
battle?
Yeah. Do I need to get those points? So I need to own this area. I need to go fight for that, or I'm not going to get any points this round. So game immersion, I do feel more especially with that tea ceremony thing and the fact that you can betray. It's exactly how that gets played out. So
Oh, and it's not just that. It's not just the tea ceremony and the deciding who you're gonna play with. What I really like is when you're going to the battle, that you could be like, you know what, I don't think I'm gonna win this, so I'm gonna put all my money into where they I think it's called like seppuku or whatever, where your soldiers just kill themselves in honor instead of losing face. And so I'm like, wow, that feels really good. You know what? I don't think I'm going to win this, so I'm going to put all my money here and try to win it. So yeah, no, I agree with you that Rising Sun, it does feel more immersive. So with that being said, it looks like Rising Sun beats Marvel United, another close one here, moving into the semifinals. All right, so was our next elimination, moving into the third round. And that is the wrong one. Do I already have them on the top? Yep. All right. Our Cthulhu Death May Die versus Dragon Castle. You ready?
Yep.
Call it.
Tails.
You're going first.
All right.
And you get Dragon Castle.
All right. So, again, Dragon Castle is... I picked it up because I remember growing up in school playing the old Mahjong computer game. That's literally what this is on a board. They're nice, chunky pieces. And it gives you not just trying to find those pieces, but then putting it into a puzzle style thing of like, how can I manipulate this to get towers built up, get myself as many points as possible at one time versus like a couple points here and there. So I think ease of play and familiarity, I think that the Dragon Castle really does give you that. I mean, I've gotten that out to the table multiple times, especially just because of how gorgeous those pieces are on it.
Oh, it's a beautiful game.
Yeah, length of time. I mean, it's great. Now, I don't know if it's ever going to get expansions. I don't know if it would need it. Maybe expansions would be like extra cards, but that's all you're going to get. It's not going to get a lot out of there. Meaningful choices. Honestly, it's not something. It's meaningful, but it's not something that is so dire that you're gonna be like, oh, this over that kind of thing. A lot of times you might only have one option, and then that's just what you're stuck with because of how someone pulled something last time messes up how you were able to get something this time, or not pulling something, or there's luck in there a little bit. It does fit that feel and theme that it has, especially when you get into, because you can do like a standard game, which would just be playing it, but then they have some ways to change it up so it doesn't feel so samey with like the different dragons that you can have that will affect the game, and even then the different animals, because there's 2 different types in there, so then that way it can change up what you're doing and how you're getting it every game. So
yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. It's a good game. I like the game a lot. But
and the art is the art is very simplistic on it as well. Probably
which
more
is not
so
a bad
than
thing.
It's not a bad thing, but like I said, it's a very simplistic minimalism art that they set up with it, and it fits the theme. So
yeah, no, I get what you're saying. So I get to argue Cthulhu Death May Die. I love this game, in all honesty. I think it's a good game. I didn't pick this one up again. It's just, again, both of you and Dom, who are the CMON guys for some reason, were getting it. And I'm like, I've played a lot of Cthulhu games. In fact, you can see right here, I have one of the boxes for the LCG that I'm into. I really enjoy it. I like Cthulhu games. It's just, there's just a lot out there, and there's only so much I can have. My issue with Dragon Castle, before I go into Cthulhu Death May Die, there's 3 things I want to talk about with Dragon Castle. 1, this out of the entire list is, even though one of the easiest game, is the one that's most likely going to lead to AP. There is going to be a lot of analysis paralysis with this one. Another issue is, you mentioned it, yeah, it's basically Mahjong, people get into and stuff like that. but it's very abstractic more than thematic when we're talking about like the rest of the games on this list. It's pretty much an abstract game, which is good for CMON. They're branching out instead of just mini games, but there's not a lot of theme to it, as well as once you play the game, yeah, there's different modules, but that's it. You don't you know the whole game basically the first time you play it, because it's, again, an abstract game. You may be understanding it, doesn't mean you're going to be good at it. It's just you understand how the game plays. Now, Cthulhu Death May Die. This is CMON at its best. This is Rob Daviau and Eric Lang making a Cthulhu game that has nothing to do with like the H.P. Lovecraft stories. It's not Mountains of Madness or Mansions of Madness or any of the madness. This is their own game and their own story with it, which I like. It's kind of like the TV show Lovecraft Country, where someone took the mythos and made their own lore out of it. Yeah. And that's what they did with here. It's very well produced, probably one of the best well produced games. I don't know if you have it, but I know our mutual friend Dom has the giant Cthulhu that came with the Kickstarter.
No, when that Kickstarter happened, they actually had limited the price, and so then I went and took money other places, and then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna open it up again." And I know some people were still receiving it like a year or two after.
Yeah,
is
after
what they were stating.
Yeah.
I wanted to, but no, I didn't.
And again, going back to what I was saying earlier, it's a great thematic story that is original compared to other Lovecraft games that basically are just pulling from the Lovecraft books. And in all honesty, you've played it, I played it, we both enjoy it. It looks more overwhelming than it actually is. It's pretty simple to play. You have a couple actions and things happen.
And almost to the point, especially because you mentioned you like playing Lovecraft games. I love playing Lovecraft games. Almost to the point when you look at the board, you're like, really? Like, this is a Lovecraft game, and that's all you give me are like 3 tiles, and then that's it. Like, I want like a sprawling mansion that I'm going through, and you didn't give that to me. And even though they didn't give it to you, the gameplay still feels
It's very thematic, especially when you're getting stormed.
Yes.
That is a flaw about the game, is that the minis are so big and the tiles are so small that there's just not enough room for everything on there. But I mean, it's not that bad. You very much feel the theme coming out, because you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? How am I going to get through this when there's like 4 or 5 different things in my one room?
Yeah, no, it most definitely. It's
all right. So let's get this quick instead of breaking down section by section. Which do you think is the better game?
I'm gonna have to go with Cthulhu Death May Die on this one. As much as I like Dragon Castle and I own it, I honestly think Potion Explosion is a better game than Dragon Castle. I'm surprised that, and we talked about this earlier, but for me, I wouldn't have put Dragon Castle was something I thought I was going to have to honorably mention, not actually have to debate against.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. I also think Cthulhu Death May Die should move on. Dragon Castle, though great game, is probably my least favorite on this list. And that's saying something. I enjoy all these games on this list. But even my honorable mentions, I'd play before I play Dragon Castle, because it's just too abstracted for me. You're right there. You're going to be able to hang in. We still got 2 more rounds.
I know. I'm good. So we got more than 2 more rounds. We got 3 more rounds.
Well, we got 1 more this round, and then the whole round, and then the final. So
yeah.
All right. So finals here, we have Zombicide Black Plague going up against Arcadia Quest, and the winner of this bracket has to go up against Blood Rage. All right, call it.
Heads.
We have heads, so you will be going first again. And you get Arcadia Quest.
Dang it. All right.
Trust me, I've had to argue games I can't stand.
It's not even that I can't stand it. It's I've only played it the one time, so it's just like, oh.
Just make your
But
arguments as best you can.
all right. Uh, Arcade Quest is, whew, this is tough. So the game is exciting. Like you do get to go through, and I like the sprawlingness of the map. I like because Quest plays up to 4 people, right? Or is it only a 2-player game?
No, it plays, I think, up to 4, yeah. Because you're basically 4 different guilds. So let me give you a
Guilds.
quick overview of Arcadia Quest for our audience, and then you can make your arguments. It's
Okay.
a up to 4-player game where you're all rival guilds. Basically, some big bad destroyed the world, and it's dark, and you're all trying to bring the light back. Well, you're trying to be the guild that does it. This way, you can run the world. All that stuff. It's a great game, but what the thing about it is, its mechanism, it's PvP and PvE. So if you're familiar with video games, it's player versus player as well as player versus environment. You're facing the big bad forces as well as the other guild. So you're not only shooting at the big bads, you're also shooting at, like Brys. If I'm playing against Brys, I'm taking pot shots at him as well as I'm taking pot shots at the bad guys.
Yeah, and that's all he did was take pop shots at me.
Well, I had to steal something from you.
Yeah, the win. You stole the win from me. So easy play. It is an easy game. Once you know what you're doing, there's only a couple actions that you're doing throughout the entire game. And every guild does play different. And I think you can. There was multiple people. You just got to pick like 3 or 4.
Yeah, you only get to pick 3 characters. There is when you play it, it tells you which characters you should play. There is a variant where you actually draft the characters as well.
Yeah, and so I think that would be cool. I honestly think at 2 people it does make it tough, but I'm only saying bad things about this, and I feel bad. It is a good game, but it's one of those that it's just the artwork is cool. Again, it has the chibis, and this is where I think chibis got a bad rep. Everybody wanted like a really dark and gruesome game, which I feel like this could have
Honestly,
been.
I don't think the chibis got the bad rep here. I think the chibis got the bad rep for, what is that tofu game that everybody was all in love with for like 2 seconds. And
they made a cartoon out of it too, didn't they?
Well, it was based off that cartoon. It was the
cartoon.
Yeah, I can't remember
I
the
know
name
what you're
of
talking about.
Yeah.
See, I always thought it was off of Arcadia Quest. And I know they've done a Starcadia Quest, which was a little bit more family friendly, but with this, everything's really cool in it. The art is really cool. The style and what you're trying to do, it's fun. I'm sorry I'm killing this. This is the one I was really hoping I didn't get out of everything. But meaningful choices. I think it is one of those that, yeah, especially because it is player versus player and player versus its environment. Your choices are very important because not only do you have to strategize against the other guild or guilds if you're playing with multiple people, but you still want to try to take out the big bads in the game, so that way your guild becomes more infamous to become what it is. And you read about stuff like this, you watch TV shows about this where you're trying to fight somebody else before they can take your prize. And I think it does a really good way of showcasing it. And the components with it were really cool. I know there was like crystals and stuff that came with it. And that was you bought that off of base game setup, so it wasn't even anything special that you bought. So, and I know this is CMON's like first big major title that I could think of.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what got CMON on my radar, was always watching videos and stuff on this game. So,
yeah.
But like I said, I think that's all I'm going to say on it. I feel if I keep going, it's just going to get worse. It's a great game. I'm glad I never bought it, but I'm glad that I got to play it. I wish that we could have played it at 4 people just to see how that played out.
And so the reason why I sold it is I did enjoy the game. It just, it sat on my shelf for 4 years. We played it a couple times, and then it just sat there because there's just better games out there, in all honesty. And I'm not trying to detract from Arcadia Quest. It's a good game. Line of sight is a bit wonky. That was one of my major flaws with it, is trying to figure out the line of sight. I mean, it's not a bad line of sight, but okay, how does this big guy not block me? But if there's someone else in that space, it does block it. I don't get that. But again, the chibi minis, as I mentioned with Marvel United, could be an issue. The rule book was a little wonky, but all in all, it was good. It had a campaign. It did fairly well. But Zombicide Black Plague. Now, if you ever played Zombicide First Edition, everybody hate that game. Everybody's, or not everybody, some people liked it, but I'm just saying, like, everybody hated the way the game played.
Yeah, there's
and
some
then they came out with new
rules
for Zombicide Black Plague that changed some of the rules that they had in Zombicide that everybody hated, and then everybody loved it. And honestly, this to me is a very thematic version of Zombicide. Not that they all aren't, but I've played the original, I've played this one, and I've played the space one. This one has the best theme so far, I think. I do have to try the Western one. I don't know who else got it. I love the fact that their idea behind this one is the zombie horde is made by necromancers. I think that is amazing. That is the best way to do a zombie uprising, basically, because necromancers are behind it. I thought that was a great idea. This one does lead to one of the most, out of all these games, the table talk, where you're trying to work together. You're trying to figure it out. You're fighting over which characters you're going to play because somebody wanted to play the Batman character.
Hey, you always poke fun. I'm just saying you do it too. You do it too.
It also has a standalone expansion that was its own whole Kickstarter. What is it, Green Inferno or something like that?
Green Horde, because it introduced the goblins and trolls and stuff.
But it's a standalone expansion that could be integrated with Black Plague, and so that's saying something. There's a lot to that as well. So just for me going through this, I think Zombicide Black Plague should move on. I just think it's a better game than Arcadia Quest. The rules are a little bit simpler.
Yeah.
Arcadia Quest is the easier game, but when we're talking about like graphic design, the art production, and the meaningful choices and all of that, I just think it's an overwhelming going to Zombicide for me.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. And honestly, getting it to the table, Zombicide can get to the table if you organize it properly and like put things in specific areas and not use the CMON special plastic trays and boxes that they do.
Oh God, those things are, they're the worst.
But I think with Zombicide, if you get your miniatures set in a way, that's really the only thing that makes that game so long to tear down and set up. But if you get in the habit, like I have a buddy of mine that his family plays this game at least 3 or 4 times a year. They're playing this because they like it so much. I know he has Green Horde, and I know he, as much as he hates CMON, he backed the Western one, which is Aaron. Aaron backed the Western one because he's like, I want a Western one. That's amazing. And I was like,
I was tempted. I'm not gonna lie, I was tempted. I like Westerns.
I know. I wasn't tempted. I was more upset that I didn't get Green Horde though, because I did get Black Plague. I really wish, because Green Horde introduced like big dragons, and they had a bone dragon in there, and it was amazing. I know a lot of people backed it because you could actually get all the characters from Stranger Things. They were all exclusive characters in there.
All right, so moving into our semifinals, we have Blood Rage versus Zombicide Black Plague. I don't know why I want to keep saying plague. I don't get it. All right, and number 2, Rising Sun versus Cthulhu Death May Die. And before we move on, here's the way it went down in the votes. You had Rum and Bones and Dragon Castles as our least vote getters, tied for 7th place at 1 apiece. And finally, our number 6 vote getter, Marvel United, was eliminated as well at 12. And our number 5 vote getter, Arcadia Quest, was eliminated at 14. So our bottom 4 matches the audience's bottom 4.
Yeah. I am surprised, though, with the Arcadia Quest, because, man, there for a while, that's all you ever heard about was Arcadia Quest this, Arcadia Quest that. So especially when they just did the Starcadia Quest too.
Yeah. I think that might be why it's died down a little because Arcadia Quest came out, and so people are into that one right now. But even then, I don't hear that one mentioned as much as Arcadia Quest was when it first came out. But again, we're also into that realm of board games where something comes out and then it's forgotten like 3 months later just because there's so many good games coming
So
out
much
right
stuff
now.
coming out. Yeah.
All right, you ready to go round two?
Yeah, let's do round 2.
All right, call it.
Heads.
So you'll be okay
Did I
with
get-
either one of these games, huh?
We're doing Blood Rage and Zombicide, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, you get the game you wanted in the last category.
Zombicide, Black Plague. So in this one, we're still doing the same thing as we just got done doing, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. These will be a little bit more evenly matched games now since we've cut out the chaff. I shouldn't say chaff, but the games that were being put up against something. So, but in this game, cooperatively, I think I've only won one zombie side game once because of how much you are feeling like you're in a horde of zombies. Like it's not like this is like the old school movies of zombies. This isn't like the Walking Dead where it's mostly about the character build up. No, this is like you're running and gunning and trying to like, okay, we need to find this stuff so we can get out of here. So components in this are always fantastic. Even at the base game, you get different styled miniatures for each one of your characters. And in this one, which was another really big thing, because this was in the base game, they actually came out with the backpack plate where you could put everything in front of you. Organizers. I mean, I even know that style of organizer was so popular that you can even find 3D prints for other games that kind of use and utilize that same characteristics because it was all right there. You weren't having stuff spread out and it was all organized neatly in front of you. So component wise, that it was just amazing. So, like I said, ease of play, it scales well. And I think it scales well because it's easy enough to play. Like if it was just me and you playing, we could play 2 characters easily without having any issues and still make it feel like, oh my gosh. The rule change did help out. One of the big rules was like if you're shooting a gun or bow and arrow into a crowd of people and you mess up, you instantly hit your person no matter what. And they're like, no, that's not how that should be. Like in a real zombie game, you might have clipped the zombie, but you're not going to be aiming at the person that you're trying to save kind of thing. So, and it is one that you really can't go all Batman on and try to solo it yourself because you will get torn apart. And once you get swarmed, your teammates can't help you unless they're going to sacrifice themselves as well.
Yeah, Bryce. You really wanted to go down those stairs.
But even the mechanism of going into a room, you'll look at the rooms like, oh, that's cool. And then as soon as you knock down the door, it spawns whatever's going to be in there. And so it's very thematic. In most games, like you kind of set stuff up. You're like, oh, okay, I kind of already know what's in there. Like we won't have to go in there if we don't have to. But this one's like, one of the question marks we need is in that room. We have to go in there and investigate. And you could just completely get dumped on. And that's not including the ones that are already out. So,
no, I don't disagree with you. I get to argue Blood Rage, which, hey, I said it right this time. This is tough. I know you love Zombicide, and if I was to give Zombicide anything, I'd give it game immersion. You do feel the tension. You do feel like you're role playing your character. You do feel like you're being swarmed by zombies. But Blood Rage just hits on so many levels. It's one of the first thematic drafting games out there. I'm thinking Sushi Go, yeah, you kind of feel it, the cutesy sushis, but you're basically just trying to make the best menu. You play, what is the other one? Seven Wonders. Seven Wonders is by far the most unthematic game I've ever played that has a theme on it because I remember us playing a 3-player game of Seven Wonders and not talking for 17 minutes. Okay, I want that card. Yep, that one. Here we go. and then we were done in 3 rounds or something like that. This one, oh, this card's really good. I'll take this one. Oh, wait, I know Danny's doing the Loki strategy. I'm just going to take this card. It might not be good, but man, it'll help me, but it won't help me. You know what I mean? So, yeah, there's one of the most thematic drafting games. You do feel like you're a Viking with Valhalla and all that. Again, one of the first hybrids that play the Euro mechanisms with the theme that Ameritrash is known for. For an earlier game, it has one of the best productions that I've seen out there. Mind you, that's also because of Kickstarter. It leads to a lot of memorable moments. So when I'm going through our criteria here, I would give ease of play to Rising Sun. It's just much simpler to learn. Some of the rules in Zombicide are a little finicky, especially how you're supposed to spawn the monsters.
And they're a little fiddly. I'll give you that.
Especially the way the sponsors spawn, because it determines where a player at is on a certain level. So if a player is in green, all the players are in green, fine, we're spawning green zombies, and they tend to be a little lighter. But if just one person gets into the yellow and then into the red, well, guess what? The bad guys are coming out because one player went all the way up there. So
I'll give you that.
That's a bit wonky. Meaningful choice. I just think there's a little bit more meaningful choice in Blood Rage, just because you're making all those choices and you're still beholden to dice rolls in Zombicide. Replay value. Zombicide gets that one because just the Green Horde alone is a massive, massive expansion with all the little bits and pieces that can be brought into Zombicide. Black Plague. Game immersion I give to Black Plague. Both of those work really well. Now, here's the tough part. We're going to talk, for me, art production is one of the harder ones to talk about because they're both well produced. I say the art I like better in Blood Rage. It's just better looking for me. However, the minis, the pieces and components, I prefer Zombicide, because the thing about Blood Rage is all your main characters are the same. Your shamans or whatever they are called in that one are the same. They're the same mold. Zombicide, yeah, they do share some of the creatures share the same mold, but then you have the abominations, as you mentioned, the dragons, the goblins, all that other stuff. And there might be several of the same mold. That's fine. But then Blood Rage also has those really cool monsters like the sea dragon and the trolls and stuff like that. So
for me, I think art for me, as much, like I said, I love Blood Rage. Don't get me wrong; it's one of my favorite games. But I'd still give it to Black Plague, because overall, like, you have so many different characters. I mean, when it comes to it, the biggest things besides the cover itself are going to be the God cards, which was an expansion. A lot of the cards that you get from the drafting, they're little pieces of art that are like this big. Like, I think it would have been better if the artwork had been blown up on them, almost like what they did with the guard cards, and then put the text on top of the art. I think that would have given it a little bit more, but I just feel like you're looking at a postage stamp on all of them. So for me, I think art-wise, Black Plague does beat out Blood Rage in that sense.
All right, so we're on a disagreement there. Okay, so before we decide to go and call it a wash and let the fans decide, which do you think is the better game?
Blood Rage.
I'd have to agree with you. I think it's easier to play, a lot more meaningful choices, and for me personally, I give it the art and production because I like the art better in there. And also, I think the graphic design just reads so much better when we're talking about like how the cards work with the board and how the characters go on the board and the Valhalla area and how the board is shrinking down, and it makes so much more sense compared to the way the Rising Sun one, or not Rising Sun, Zombicide works with the doors and, oh, this is broken or this is not broken and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And so I guess we're in agreement that Blood Rage is moving on.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I kind of knew Blood Rage would be the one to move on in this one, because of ease of play and overall, like, you are behooved to dice rolls, and there's really not a way to mitigate that. So there's a lot of luck in Zombicide, where Blood Rage, you do have that same, like, you get to choose and you can affect other people's choices by like hate draft and stuff like that in there.
Yeah.
So.
All right, moving into the final semifinal to see who goes on to face Rising Sun to be the best CMON game. Huh?
You said Rising Sun again.
Whatever. Heads or tails?
Tails.
As it is, and I get to argue Cthulhu, Death May Die, so I don't even get to argue Rising Sun, even though I keep saying it all day. All right, so Cthulhu, Death May Die, compared to Rising Sun, is actually kind of a lot tougher than you think it's going to be because they're both really good games. It's very well produced, as most CMON games are. Like I mentioned earlier, it tells a great thematic story that is different from any of the books or anything you know about H.P. Lovecraft and the stuff. But again, it looks overwhelming, but it's simple to play. You got some really great minis, easy to play. It is easy. I think Rising Sun is a bit easier, even though there's a lot going on it. You do have some meaningful choices, but you're also beholden to luck. Honestly, going through this list, I think Rising Sun's moving on just because ease of play, I think Rising Sun is easier. The meaningful choices are much more. I would give art and production to Cthulhu Death May Die just for the minis itself.
I would give them art and production as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, with Rising Sun, if you're going off base game, those cardboard pieces don't match up to anything that the base game did for Cthulhu Death May Die.
And if you're by chance lucky enough to get the Kickstarter version of Rising Sun, you get those really cool turtles.
Yeah, the turtles and even the castles, because all of that stuff was all chits.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I said, the Rising Sun had a lot of cool features if you got that Kickstarter. And again, it's chasing that dragon, but and that's why I've been such a big CMON fan, because I always back the Kickstarters, knowing that if I don't get it, then I'm not getting it again.
It's FOMO. It really is. It's the fear of missing out. If you don't back a CMON, like me, I'm kicking myself for not backing on because I now have Blood Rage because I got it in that March. But I'm like, you know what? I like the game, but I don't need to chase that dragon for everything. Now, Rising Sun is that one I need to chase that dragon because I liked everything about it. But yeah, no. So let's just make this quick. Which one do you think should move on?
Rising Sun.
I agree with you. It's getting late, folks. It's almost 11 here. All right. So with that being said, Rising Sun moves on to face Blood Rage in a battle of the really biggest games on CMON, to be truthfully honest. So with that being said, let me go ahead and tell you, our number 4 seed, Zombicide, was also the 4th best vote getter at 19. And Cthulhu Death May Die, which was our number 3 seed, was eliminated, and it was our number 2 vote getter. So right now we have our number 1 versus a number 3 on the fan vote. Cthulhu Death May Die had 32. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move into the final. And this is Blood Rage versus Rising Sun, our number 1 and number 2 seeds going up against each other. And here's an interesting thing. Bryce, we don't pick a side. Coin of Doom's getting put away. Cup of Doom's getting put away. We just break down the criteria for this. So is there any criteria that jumps out to you that should win? Go to one game specifically or the other?
Ease of play, I think, when it comes to these two, is going to be Blood Rage. They took some of the smallest mechanisms and they made it into a giant game.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think Blood Rage wins ease of play. When it comes to art production, for me, I think it goes to Rising Sun for 2 reasons. The pieces and components, base to base game, they're pretty much similar. You get, I think, a little bit more plastic in the Rising Sun base game compared to the Blood Rage one.
Yeah.
However, the art style in Rising Sun is just so much better.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
It's amazing art. in the graphic design. I just think it's so much easier to read, even with everything that's going on. It's so simplistic with that graphic design where you're like, okay, I know where I'm going in a location, where I'm supposed to come in. The following the lines where you can actually travel to an adjacent area, or if you're a dragonfly, you can just go wherever the heck you want. I just think graphic design wise and the art wise just looks better on Rising Sun.
And thematically, I feel Rising Sun has a more thematic tie to the gameplay than Blood Rage, especially like you said, that seppuku. I mean, that is something that people actually did in real life. They would commit suicide just so they wouldn't lose honor.
Yeah. So game immersion, you're agreeing, goes to Rising Sun.
Yep.
Now, here's an interesting thing for people. Meaningful choice, I'm going to push to the side for right now, and that's replay value, because we're talking about the length of time and scaling well. To me, that's Blood Rage. It just plays shorter, even though Rising Sun could hold 6, and I think Blood Rage, if you have an expansion, could hold 5.
Yeah, you could do 5 at the most. And the downside is like with Rising Sun, it doesn't scale well when you go further down.
Yeah.
Like Blood Rage, you could play Blood Rage with 2 people. You can't play Rising Sun with 2 people. You can, but you don't get to do the tea ceremony. Even at 3 people, it's really tough because it's 2 people ganging up on one other person because they made a tea ceremony. So I honestly think Rising Sun plays best at 4 up, because I think it plays up to 6, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it plays up to 6. And I also think, and I mentioned this in my cons for Rising Sun, is that if you're playing an odd number, the odd person out could be whether there's 3 or 5, because you're only allowed to make a match with one other person. So
one other person.
If 4 people match up, the 5th player is by himself, and they can sometimes be the odd man out. Now, sometimes people play perfectly that way. Sometimes you don't. But I think the replay and scaling well. Now, minimum number of plays to get the full experience. That's pretty much a wash to me, because they both play differently depending on who you're playing as. I think, and the thing is with Rising Sun, even without the extra stuff from the Kickstarter, you still had cards you could add to the deck and change it up every time you're playing. Compared to Rising Sun, if you're just the base game, it's just the base decks that you're always drawing from for the first round, second round, and third round. So I think that part Rising Sun wins. So expandability. Now here is where we got to get into the Kickstarter stuff, because I think only Rising Sun recently had an expansion, correct? Or I mean, Blood Rage had the expansion because of the digital release. They just got some extra stuff.
Yeah, I think equal wise, I think they actually had the same amount of expansions.
So I'm just going by Kickstarter. You had all the Kickstarter exclusive stuff. Then you had the 2 extra clans. And I think 1 extra thing of monsters. So you had like 4 expansions per se.
And then you had the God expansion.
That's right, the God expansion. So 5.
Because it was almost identical, because even because how they did it with Blood Rage Kickstarter, it was the base game. They had the 5th player expansion, which when they did the digital, they did a 6th player, like another clan faction. They did the gods just like Rising Sun did, or Rising Sun did like Blood Rage did, and then the extra monsters. And then when they did the digital version, they did give you another clan, which at this point, if you're going clan for clan, I think Rising Sun actually had 1 extra clan versus Blood Rage did.
So base game, I think there's 6 expansions. So there's 8 clans total, if I remember correctly, in Rising Sun, because you have the 6 in the expansion, the 2 extra, the Sun and Moon clans.
And the Blood Rage, you have the bear, wolf, dragon. Yeah, they're either equal or 1 less. It's not that much, but I think on the Kickstarter, there wasn't a clan that you couldn't get unless you did the Kickstarter for the very first one. But I think expansion-wise, I think they're equal. The only reason Blood Rage, I think, would get the tick in their favor is because they just did another one where it added that extra faction, and then it added extra monsters that are very similar but not game-breaking, that were in the original Blood Rage.
All right. So just by doing my math, we're giving replay value to Blood Rage because of the extra expansion, even though they're pretty equal. So we're down to 2-2, meaningful choice. Which one do you think meets the impacting on other player strategy, the impact of your long-term strategy, and arbitrary choices making an impact on the game? For
Blood Rage.
me, I think it's Rising Sun wins this category.
Really?
The impacting other player strategy, because yes, you can make an alliance, but you can also break it. You also get to make the decision how things are going to go. But sometimes the thing you choose, you get to do a bonus action, but some people get to go before you. So, like if you want to make a choice somewhere, others can go before you. The main choices you're making in Blood Rage itself, you're making these choices throughout the game. So you're making the choice to partner with someone, you're making the choice to betray someone, you're making the choice of how you're going to go into this war. Am I going to hire Ronin? Am I going to commit seppuku? That kind of stuff. It's all throughout the
Okay.
game. Your main choices in Rising and Blood Rage is the draft. That's it. You're drafting the cards and then you're playing it out how it goes. Whereas you're making so many more choices strategy-wise throughout the game.
Yeah, but I'll give you more strategic, but you also can't forget you can go into other battles even if you don't have someone set. Because it's not, I don't think Rising Sun did that where
You can't. No,
once the
you have
battle
to be in the location to do it.
shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
in
but
Blood
that could be
Rage, you
good.
were
That could
like,
be bad. I just think there's just much more choice as you're going through. You're making a choice in the beginning of the round, in the middle of the round, at the end of the round, and then just that third round when you're going to the battle. There's like 5 choices just there alone.
That's true. Okay, yeah, I'll give you that.
All right, so by my math, Rising Sun
Is the victor.
is the victor, and that's saying something because I love both of these games. These are my 2 favorites. Gizmos is climbing, Marvel United is climbing, but yeah, these are the 2 that really put CMON on my map, and I'm like, oh my god, these are amazing games. These are the games that also put Eric Lang on my map.
Yeah.
All right, so that has been your first topic debate. Rising Sun is our champion. How do you feel?
It's a lot tougher than the other stuff that I do with you guys.
I did tell you this one's a bit of a bear. I like this.
Yeah, this one is it's a bear just because you could get stuck with a game that you don't know very well, and I feel bad for Arcadia Quest that I was the one that got picked for it, just because I've only played it.
Oh, you think that's bad? I've had to argue games I actually loathe.
But see, at least if you loathe it, you understand it well enough. I had never played Arcadia Quest enough to even like give it a fair shake. Even if I hated it, like it was just, I played it.
Let's just put it this way. I had to argue Looping Louie. I can't stand that game. You know I can't stand that game.
I could have argued Looping Louie.
You could have.
You,
but I loathe that game.
I know, but at least you played it well enough to know. Like, it's not a hard game to understand. Like, Arcadia Quest, I feel like something was left on the table by not playing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, if I had to do Munchkin, I mean, I've played Munchkin. I loathe Munchkin. Or we'll do Cards Against
Humanity, yeah.
Because I loathe that, but at least I understand, like, the ease of play, the art style of it, which is shit. Sorry, which is bad, but like it. But I could argue it at least. Like Arcadia Quest, I'm like I played it once, and all I can remember is the fact that like the monsters were in the middle of between me and you, and we were fighting each other. We weren't fighting the monsters, and you won the game because I ended up dying.
No, I won the game because I killed the monster, and the monster killed you before I killed the monster.
Is that what it was?
Yeah,
I just remember. Yeah, because I was fighting
the thing is, we had to beat the big bad.
Me.
Yeah, and I pot-shotted you, and then you went after the big bad because both of us had met other goals, and you went after the big bad. The big bad killed you, and then you whittled it down, and I killed the big bad. And I'm like, I win.
Yep.
With that being said, I want to go ahead and thank you, Brys, for joining us. I hope you had a good
Yeah.
time.
I did.
And
Hope
once
I
again,
didn't make this too long for you.
That's fine. Once again, go ahead and tell everybody about your giveaway as well as where they can find it.
All right, so I'm at TikTok as the Gamehead Geek, and I am giving away a CMON game, Marvel's United. We talked about it, and this has the exclusive Venom character. What you need to do, go to TikTok. If you don't have a TikTok, make a TikTok account. You can add me, you can add Daniel, because Everyday Board Gaming has a TikTok, and make sure you follow me. Make sure you like the video. I'm probably going to do another video in about 2 weeks just to remind people, so that way people can still go on there and add in more votes and stuff like that. But it's a lot of fun. They're quick, short videos, and there's a lot of great content creators out there. It's funny. It's funny to watch.
Yeah,
And
no,
there's some.
I have to blame you. I got into TikTok and I've been actually enjoying like the D&D TikTok and the game breaking stuff.
Like, there's a lot of cool stuff. I mean, if there's something you think of, just like YouTube, this is just a quick, shorter video. If you've ever gone down the rabbit hole of watching Facebook videos, that's all.
That's
TikTok
pretty
is.
much TikTok, yeah. So once again, I would like to thank Brys. Description to his TikTok will be down below on YouTube, as well as our audio podcast platforms. Once again, if you ever want to watch us live, today wasn't one of them, but you can also find us on twitch.tv, Everyday Board Games. As I mentioned, all video re-uploads are found on YouTube. You can find us at Everyday Board Games 2020. If you like the video, please give us a subscribe. It helps us grow on the platform, as well as like the video and comment down below to which is your favorite game on this list or best fits this category. Doing this also helps us grow on that platform. All audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast, including Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, and Podbean. You can get in touch with us 2 ways. You can get in touch with us through our official email at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com, as well as our Twitter account, EBG Podcast. As Brys mentioned, also there is a TikTok account. We haven't put any videos up there. I'm not sure what we're going to do. I'm the one that's running that. I may just do unboxing videos somewhere down the line if I decide to start doing it, just where we can help grow everywhere. That is under everyday_board games, board_games. It's weird how they made me do it. So, but yeah, it's Everyday Board Games. Just search us, you'll find us. With that being said, I want to thank Brys for joining us. I've been Daniel.
And I am Brys.
And thank you for joining Everyday Board Games. Have a good one.
Have a good night, guys.